Lil Baby is one of the hottest rappers around today, dropping some of the best-selling albums of the last few years and serving as a shining example of success and quality in the music industry. But perhaps one of the most interesting aspects of Baby's story as a superstar rapper is that music was never in his plans at all. The story goes that Lil Baby might not exist if it weren't for his friend Young Thug practically forcing him into the studio. So here's a look at how Lil Baby changed the course of his life and became one of the biggest stars around today when he was never really interested in music to begin with. Before the fame and success, Lil Baby established himself as a well-known hustler in Atlanta. He even went to high school with Young Thug, and they've known each other personally since they were teenagers. But Young Thug had been making music since 2011, when he was 20 years old, and it didn't take long for him to get noticed because of how much dedication he had to his craft. And watching Young Thug start to succeed from a distance showed Lil Baby that it would take a lot of work to become a rapper. But early on, he was highly preoccupied with the streets and didn't think he had the time or passion to become an artist. He was already making plenty of money doing what he was doing, and didn't see a need to take the big risk to try and make it in music. But there were people around him who were convinced he had the qualities to become a star, and they didn't want to see his potential go to waste. At one point, he was in the studio just to try out rapping, and he wrote his first few songs. He uploaded one of the tracks to Instagram, and immediately he got interest from Gucci Mane and Young Thug. Both wanted to sign him. They saw the potential in what he was doing, and they wanted to ensure he kept going. Baby still wasn't convinced. The positive feedback was enough to interest him in rapping, but he was making so much money hustling that it was hard for him to put any effort into becoming a real artist. But at one point, Young Thug offered to pay him whatever he was making on the streets to come to the studio full time and record.
Like, Young Thug, like, he gave me all the jewels. Like, it's times, like, Young Thug really, literally, like, paid me to leave the neighborhood.
So who knows whether or not Baby would be where he is today if it weren't for Young Thug basically forcing him to leave the streets. The craziest part is that Lil Baby wasn't even signed to Thug. Thug didn't expect to see any return from the money. He just wanted to help his friend get an opportunity to do something bigger with his life. Young Thug saw Lil Baby's potential before he saw it in himself, and he wanted to be sure that his talent wouldn't go to waste.
I really sacrifice anything because I see that it can happen. What you gonna make today? 20,000? Okay, yeah. 20,000. You don't even owe me. Hey, go home. I used to tell him to go home. You don't even gotta go to the studio. Like, I'm like, okay, you don't gotta rap. Here, bro, go home.
But Thug wasn't the only person Lil Baby had in his corner. Even though he had the persona and the image, he still didn't quite know how to make songs and write hooks. So in the early days, he would get help from another friend who later went on to be a famous artist too. Gunna was a huge help in the early stages of Lil Baby's career. And Baby has later admitted that Gunna used to write his early songs to help him learn more about the process of making a track.
Like, I didn't pay Gunna to write my songs. Like, I never put the songs out, but like when I first started to rap, I used to like pay him like $100, like I'm gonna give you $100, like write something for me so I could like try to learn how to go in there and record it.
He later clarified that he only paid Gunna to help him express his thoughts and that he never released any of those tracks. He would come up with ideas and Gunna would help him write rhymes and learn how to record. Today, Lil Baby writes all of his own raps, but he needed to start somewhere, and since he was already hanging out with some of the most influential artists in Atlanta, it was a smart move to get their input to help him get ahead of the competition. But it wasn't only the artists who saw potential in Lil Baby. Even the executives behind the scenes were taking notice, and their approval is what mattered more than anything. Even before he started rapping, Baby was close with Coach K and P, two Atlanta music industry legends who founded Quality Control Records, one of the biggest record labels of the last few years. Because he had so many connections, they noticed that Lil Baby was always hanging around with other rappers, gambling and getting money and partying, and even they used to tell him to hop in a recording booth. But like everyone else, Baby ignored them until he started taking rap seriously on his own. Once he mastered the basics with the help of Thug and Gunna, Coach K and P were more than willing to offer him a record deal, and Lil Baby signed to QC in 2015.
One day, Coach would tell him, like, man, you need to rap. You got swag. You got money. You got everything these rappers got. And they talking about your lifestyle. Why don't you do it? But he wasn't taking it serious.
It turned out to be a great decision because Lil Baby has gone on to become one of QC's most successful artists. Most rappers have to work for years before anyone takes him seriously. But for Lil Baby, he already had the biggest names in the industry believing in him before he believed in himself. And now it seemed like it was meant to be because Lil Baby has gone on to become one of the biggest artists in the world. But Lil Baby's success was hardly guaranteed. As a young adult, he was arrested many times over the years, and finally in 2014, he got his third strike. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison for possession of marijuana with intent to sell. Baby did his time and was finally convinced to bounce back and make more money than ever. But at the time, his ambitions were still in the drug trade and not in music. After he was released, some of his childhood friends, including Young Thug, were already making serious moves in the music industry, which helped him gain access to other celebrities. This is how he got in the position to become a rapper in the first place. When he was finally convinced that music was the way, he dropped his first mixtape, Perfect Timing, in 2017. And within 6 months of that, 2 more mixtapes, Harder Than Hard, and To the Hard Way. He finally started to get some clout in the industry after his fourth mixtape, Too Hard, which featured his breakout hit Freestyle, one of the most streamed songs he's ever made. The clout he got from Freestyle helped him gain major recognition in the industry, and he was soon collaborating with some of the biggest names in music, including Drake on Yes Indeed and Lil Uzi on Life Goes On. And from there, Lil Baby's career absolutely exploded. He released his debut record Harder Than Ever in May 2018, followed by a collab album with Gunna called Drip Harder, which included another massive hit, Drip Too Hard. Both projects were commercially successful and well received by fans, establishing Baby as a serious artist. His second studio album, My Turn, dropped in 2020 and it debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts, selling 197,000 copies in the first week, making it his first #1 album. During the pandemic and the George Floyd protests, Baby dropped The Bigger Picture, a politically charged protest song that reflected on Black Lives Matter and police brutality. It became Lil Baby's highest charting single to date, and it proved that he could make socially conscious music without alienating his core fan base. It also landed him a meeting with Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House to discuss police reform. Ever since then, Lil Baby has continued his legendary run in the industry, growing back-to-back #1 albums with Voice of the Heroes with Lil Durk and his recent solo record, It's Only Me. Despite never envisioning himself as a rapper, Lil Baby has become one of the most successful trap artists to ever come out of Atlanta, and one of the most popular figures in modern music today. What's next for Lil Baby is anyone's guess. He's already accomplished so much in the music industry and proven his longevity as an artist that his legacy is definitely cemented. So no matter what he decides to do, I think he's almost guaranteed to find success.